Three-Eye Atlas, are we really getting any straight answers about what it really is and who possibly could be on it? Well, we're going to incorporate what they're telling us with what the remote viewers are saying and have said. And now that the Farsight Institute has weighed in, well, we're going to go ahead and compare what Aziz Brown of the Farsight Institute said compared to what our own David Powell said back in August when we interviewed him about who or what was on Three-Eye Atlas after he had done a remote viewing project. So it's going to be very interesting. All right, the first thing that we need to do is talk about why do I use remote viewers and why would I rely on their information? Well, the reason for that is simple. The CIA, the U.S. Defense Department, and various agencies in the U.S. as well as in other intelligence agencies around the world have used remote viewers in many situations, and their results turned out to be not only correct, but they also turned out to solve problems that otherwise could not be solved. And that takes us to why I got involved with remote viewers, and that was back in my first documentary series, Cascade Bigfoot Blood Mystery, and that was carried over into my latest movie, Missing 911, Olympic National Park, Staircase Trail, in which I had remote viewers, 3 of them, go ahead and look at the disappearance of a famous person who went missing, and there was no answers as to what happened to him until the remote viewers that I consulted started giving me results. And what was interesting about them, and what is going to be interesting about what we're going to be talking about today, is when you have a missing person or a satellite or an interstellar object or whatever it is, and you can't actually get on the thing to see it, how do you know what's inside? We haven't been able to send a probe out supposedly, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. So what do? Well, we go to the remote viewers, and that's what I've done. Now, for a long time, ever since I've had Dave Powell, I had another remote viewer look at Three-Eye Atlas, and since then we have had no real confirmation of either of their findings. And I will tell you that the findings of one of the remote viewers differed pretty significantly. She did find life, but she did not find the kind of life we're going to be talking about with Dave Powell's remote viewing and the remote viewing that we're going to see in a few minutes here from Aziz Brown at the Farsight Institute. So that's why I reuse remote viewers, because I got all of the same data back. So when I get the same data back from 2 different remote viewers who are just assigned a number and no other information about the target that they're looking at, and they come back with the same information, and in this case, we're going to look at some very, well, some would even say bizarre information, which we first looked at with Dave Powell. So let's go ahead and just go back to our interview with Dave Powell.
I had just reposted, and then I had gotten a tasking that just happened to be the Three-Eye Atlas, and I was going over both data. I'm like, boy, this is it. This almost looks like the same session. So from my findings on the last one, which should be a pretty provocative project, but it does seem artificial. It does seem, at least from my perspective, built. I picked up on things that were on it and in it. I perceived non-human beings in it.
Okay, now that we've had a chance to look at what Dave Powell has said about what is on that ship, let's go ahead and look at what Aziz Brown of the Farsight Institute has said about the life forms on that ship.
Generally, the artificial man-made environment seemed to have the dominant presence there. It seemed like there were multiple subjects, multi-directional movement, and I got multiple visuals. Mainly it was of this sort of mountainous, barren environment, and then I saw this sort of trapezoidal shape, and then I saw on my second visual, I just saw a bunch of those subjects inside of that man-made environment. And then on the third visual, I just saw what seemed to be multiple structures or just multiple boxy shapes. The dominant session element was a subject.
Well, it looks like both people found humans. They found alien life forms that we know as the Greys with the big eyes, and they found reptiles. Now, one thing that differed in the remote viewing of Aziz Brown and Dave Powell was that Dave Powell found these kind of century robots.
What I can only describe as robotic sentries in it. And I did see some corroborating data too on that, which is really bizarre. But in an overall sense, I didn't get, lollipop, dreams, sugar plum. It wasn't a good vibe overall to me.
I started to see a line of subjects near a wall, and then a hunchbacked subject sort of in walking motion wearing brown attire.
But I did see indications of that in one other session as well, which is very strange. But as far as the non-human life, just to be honest with you, it was basically primarily reptilian type. That's what I picked. And I've only picked up on those things maybe 5 times in my whole career. I haven't picked up on them many times. But
I started to move inside this object A, and I'm starting to see this 2 non-human subjects. It looks, I got a flash perception of these 2 types of subjects, and they're quite prevalent within object A, and there's multitudes of them. One of them has a tail, it has a snout face, it has sort of like cat eyes. It looks like a lizard person, just standing very tall. And the other one has a large head, it has large, dark, almond-shaped eyes, and just very non-human appearance to both of these subjects. I started to continue looking around, and I saw what kind of looked like a hallway that is extremely wide and extremely long, lightish, whitish hues or off-white hues in this environment, some silver hues as well, but most of the subjects here looked like they were non-humans. However, there were human subjects there. The majority of the subjects were sort of the paler, large head, almond-shaped eyes, dark eyes, non-human subjects. And then I saw one of these sort of reptile lizard person looking subjects, and they had these like plates on the back of their head, like from the front of the nose all the way back, and it was like these hard plates were on the skin. It's like that part of the body was especially tough. That was just an interesting perception I was picking up there. It showed, the color gradient compared to the other sides of the skin was different. But that part was just like really solid. Anyway, I started to get a flash of a human-looking subject, and this was the same type of human-looking subjects on the previous perceptions I was getting. And very dark, black, jet black, uniform attire, hard headgear, and just everything was jet black. There were slight yellowish, goldish accents, slight shiny silver accents on the chest, but otherwise, this is a jet black uniform or wearing like fatigues that are jet black and just hard headgear and a stern face to this subject. Very much a human-looking subject. Anyway, I moved to the leader of Object A and I began describing the leader, and this is also one of those lizard-looking subjects. I noticed slight horns or spiky ridges on the top of the head. They're a slightly different color composition from the other reptile-looking subjects that are very similar, but this one has those spiked horns, like a horn on either side of the top of the head. And I labeled this subject A.
Yeah, you see, I haven't seen any corroborating data. I was the first one done. I'm usually the first one done on the project. Mm-hmm. So now I'm waiting to see everybody else's stuff. But I did see a little bit, which would indicate, it's funny. Like I sketched this robot in my session. I'm like, and I described it as a sentry, like a sentry robot. And I'm like, this is so bizarre.
So when we look at the viewing that Aziz Brown did, then we found that there were not sentry robots, but there was a way that the reptilian leader is controlling that ship. And here's how he supposedly does it.
Structures, as if something was coming from the sky. And so the structures felt modern to me. It looked like apartments, whatever, just structures. And I was getting a perspective from the sky. And then this object was doing something to the minds of these people. It was very bizarre.
It's like subject A is linked via this blue light, this tangle mess, into other subjects who are also linked into this tangle of blue technological light. And it's like this arbitrary space where these subjects are like linked in or connected, and it makes like a network, but the network just looks like a network of blue light. And when I start to just really hone into this perception, I see subject A, and he can like perceive, or she, I'm not sure, it kind of felt like a feminine energy there, but subject A can like see or perceive across this blue mess of light and tangled lines to what other subjects who are also integrated into this network are linked into. And it just seems like subject A can see what these subjects are doing, see their actions, their environment, and their thoughts. It's like they're all linked, like a hive mind type of link that they got going on. And I've got this sort of visual to describe to the best of my ability. I mean, all of these subjects are in different environments.
Okay, so now there is this blue type of liquid or light that seems to be uniting and keeping everybody on task. So that seems to be what is going on that ship. And both remote viewers appear to have come up with the same information, which, considering the information itself, is absolutely astounding. But that's not it, because what happens next is Aziz Brown has decided that there was something that happened to that ship. And before we're going to go into that, we need to talk about what we have been told in the so-called legitimate science community. And the first thing that we need to look at is the fact that the US or the UN Security Council has decided that this 3I Atlas object might actually be a threat, and they have acted on that.
Hey guys, this is interesting. Guys, I can't tell you whether this is 100% true or not, but leaked planetary defense papers suggest that the US secretly watched interstellar object 3I Atlas for 20 years. For 20 years. So that means it wasn't just discovered on July 21st. This is when hobby astronomers started to discover it. We have classified images that allegedly reveal structured emissions from 3I Atlas, hinting at 2 decades of covert US planetary defense preparation.
NASA says there's no threat. The UN just made it an official target. Both statements are true. Both can't be right. And this isn't happening in some distant future or theoretical scenario. This is unfolding right now, in December 2025, with deadlines you can mark on your calendar and watch countdown in real time. Let me lay out what we know with absolute certainty. On one side, NASA has maintained its official position that 3I Atlas is a natural comet from beyond our solar system. Interesting, yes. Unprecedented in some ways, absolutely. But a threat to Earth? No. They've been clear about this. No danger, no risk, nothing to worry about. It's a visitor from interstellar space doing what comets do. Move along, nothing to see here. On the other side, the United Nations activated its planetary defense network in late November. The International Asteroid Warning Network, which coordinates hundreds of observatories across the globe, launched its 8th official exercise. But here's what makes this different from every single exercise that came before it. For the first time in IAWN's history, they chose an interstellar object as their target. They chose 3I Atlas. The same object NASA calls harmless is now the focus of a coordinated global monitoring campaign that runs until the 27th of January 2026. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes, because we're going to pull apart this contradiction piece by piece and examine what's actually happening versus what we're being told is happening.
Okay, so now we have seen that apparently the UN has deemed this object a threat. Well, about possibly the same time. I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but according to remote viewer Aziz Brown, somebody attacked 3i Atlas and pretty much just blew it out of the sky, if it had any sky out there in space, but actually attacked this thing. And when Aziz Brown looked at who was on the ship itself, well, that's pretty interesting too. So let's take a look at that.
It seemed like an explosion. And then I started to move up to see like the whole picture. I wanted to see like what's going on. I didn't really understand. And then I started to see something that I labeled object Q. It looked like there was basically this, it looks kind of like a manta ray shaped type of thing. I don't really know how to describe it. Maybe there's a better geometric term. The picture that I drew is the most accurate way to sort of describe it. It sort of looked like it had like a semicircle, maybe like a horseshoe crab type of shape, but it's like this semicircle up front, and then the back area was sort of like this angular, rectangular, almost trapezoidal shape in the back. And so it was curved up front, angular in the back. And this object Q, it's like it ambushed it. It zoomed up, and then it looked like I was just seeing energetics just shooting out and destroying all sorts of other things. I saw a flurry of also smaller non-surface structures just sort of spread out across the environment, and they were shooting at each other too. But these large structures, the large, big trapezoidal structure that I was seeing, this with all the sort of scaly trapezoidal mounds all over it, that was in a firefight. I mean, it was shooting energetics back at Object Q, but it seemed like Object Q was the initial aggressor. Object Q was coming in there and shooting at this object, or Object A or something like that. So it was coming in and shooting at it. And then I started to move to Object Q and describe, and I just got a better top-down visual of what that structure looked like. Once again, the curve in the front and sort of the boxy shape in the back, kind of like a manta ray, kind of like a horseshoe crab type of look. Anyway, that was basically what I saw here with the shape of Object Q. And then I moved inside of Object Q, and all of these subjects looked human. Very much, I didn't know if I was just seeing, I got this blue hue to them. I didn't know if it was blue on the skin, like blue skin, but the hair was sort of like a lighter orangey, blondie looking hair color, and they all seemed to sort of have that hair. But this looking at their faces, I just got a blue hue, so I didn't know if there was just, it's just blue. I just got blue and yellowy orange. That was the two colors that I was seeing as sort of dominant colors. Anyway, they all looked rather serious. They were sitting in chairs, and this seemed like a leadership subject here, just sitting in a chair. And yeah, this was the inside of Object Q. Then I moved to Focus 2 again. I mean, I was already in Focus 2, but I just continued on with the sequence of events, and I seemed to see this, there was a crack down the middle of this object, and it just seemed to have a lot of debris, and a lot of smaller non-surface structures seemed a little broken and like just floating off around it like in a cloud. And then Object Q just sort of zoomed away. It seemed like Object Q got the better of that engagement, and there was just this big crack down the middle of this Object A type of looking thing. I don't know if this is Object A, but it's because we're in Focus 2 now, but I'm not labeling it 100% Object A, but I guess it is Object A. It looks kind of similar to it. It's got the scaly, rough sort of stuff on it. But anyway, Object A, it just looks like it's got a lot of debris and smaller non-surface structures, and they're just broken things all over this non-surface structure, like a cloud of broken things. And they're just floating around it, and Object Q zooms off in another direction. I deducted like a hit and run. It just seemed like there were also a few of these smaller non-surface structures that didn't seem like they were fully destroyed. They were just flying around this environment still when Object Q left. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm seeing. It's like a hit and run. Object Q comes up to this Object A looking thing, blasts it, gets into this big firefight. It seems like Object Q wins, and then Object Q flies away. And that is all the data that I have for this target.
Now, we could laugh and say, ha, that's very funny, except for one thing, that at one point they found out that the rotation of 3i Atlas actually changed and actually began to speed up.
A new cosmic rebel has burst into the solar system, spinning faster than the laws of what physics allows.
Well, an object that refuses to behave like anything natural, and just when we thought 3i Atlas was the strangest wanderer, the universe sent something even wilder. This next story gives you the details.
The universe just got stranger. We thought 3i Atlas, with its impossible thrust and strange tail, giving rise to the alien tech theory, was the apex of celestial mystery. But now, NASA is tracking something far more weird. An asteroid moving in a way that simply should not be possible. This object is not merely accelerating unnaturally. It is breaking the spin barrier.
All right, so now as a final treat to you, I'm going to go ahead and bring out our remote viewer from Missing 911 Olympic National Park, the Staircase Trail. We're going to bring out Dave Powell, and we are going to talk to him about his findings and about the project that led him to remote view 3i Atlas in the first place. So let's bring him out now. I was really excited to see the Farsight, viewing of AI, or there I did it again already. And I will blame you for that. But I saw their thing on 3i Atlas, and I said, wow, because, we did our initial interview, and then we did a follow-up interview. And in the follow-up interview, we'd never had any feedback at all. And then, as I pointed out earlier in this particular program, we didn't get any real confirmation from the other remote viewer, because she went on a different track, although she got like a spacecraft, but she didn't get the specific things that you got. And then when I saw the Farsight Institute's viewing, well, then I went, wow, he hit it right on the head. So a couple of things, first of all. So in the initial viewing that you did, can you talk about like what other people found? Did you get any kind of confirmation? Because we never got the results of that project that started this off in like the first place.
Well, I mean, for me as a remote viewer on a target, something like this, we're getting consensus. Now, consensus and confirmation are two different things, but from what I've seen, I mean, for the most part, outside like Kyle had kind of a lesser deal in that kind of a thing. But like at FFG, they had a bunch of weird stuff. Farsight had a bunch of weird stuff. Adventures Remote Viewing had a bunch of weird stuff. And all that weird stuff included spaceships. It included aliens, exotic technology, reptilians, some of it robotic stuff. So a lot of this, the weirdness of it seems to be kind of coalescing. So a big impression I got was a weapons platform, like a space weapons platform. Mm-hmm. So what was really interesting to me is that he picked up so much of the reptilian aspect, and he had humans, in his session as well, which is what I got out of it. But I also had androids too.
Yeah, and I've actually touched on that a little bit in that in the Farsight session, they talk about this form of control, kind of a blue light deal that is controlled by this reptilian guy who seems to be the leader of the whole project. So, but you said something earlier. It was like collaboration isn't confirmation or something.
For my an unverifiable target. It just keeps coming up from a remote viewing perspective that there's something bizarre with this with this
Right.
target.
Okay.
There,
Yeah.
there's more professional remote viewings separately conducted by professional remote viewers coming up with the same specific strange anomaly aspect of this.
Right.
It's the first of its kind in that way, where we have some feedback and we don't, we're never going to know for sure, but it seems like we're all picking up on the same thing.
Right.
I mean,
So, and I've made that perfectly clear at the beginning of this, that to me, that is confirmation. To have a whole bunch of different psyches get the same information just out of thin air, there must be something more to it than random coincidence. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and say, yeah, if you guys came up with that, I'm not going to, I really don't buy what is coming out of, the media and science, etc. And excuse me, of what I've done, in which you'll see as you watch this video, is that I've gone through all of the informational releases, like the effect of Jupiter's gravity, the spin, the one other thing that it correlates to, especially the spin and the changing speed of that thing, correlates to something, as they said in the Farsight's viewing, something whacked that thing, something blew it up, something shot it. And there was something going on. And so I'm not going to, you can't really confirm or, refute that. And neither can I, because I wasn't there. But that brings us to my next question. And that is, do you think that Farsight, with all of their theatrics, etc., do you think they're legitimate? Do you
they sensationalized like crazy, but they're legitimate remote viewers for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're using legitimate protocols. I do believe they use instrument blinding protocols, which means on some of their project, probably almost all of them, they have some degree of knowledge. Meaning, if there's an elaborate tasking saying, I want you to look at, Courtney sets up these elaborate taskings. I want you to look into the head person here, what their intentions are, blah, 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 blah. So beforehand, the group of remote viewers will know, okay, there's an objective A where look into this group of people, so they do have some, known information, but from Courtney's perspective, I'm surprised he even worked this target because of their whole Halbop debacle. I thought he would be afraid of it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But he looks like he sent Aziz in, and Aziz and he changed his mind. Once he saw his son got it, he's like, oh yeah, no, it's it's something bizarre. But I would tend to believe that if we know this, certainly the powers that be do, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
If they're, but again, same thing with the moon. I mean, you've had projects that go to locations on the moon. We've all gotten similar things across the decades, bases. But I thought it was interesting. This 3i Atlas, to me, looks like it's basically like a floating deep underground base situation, to where if they parked it literally in the middle of Mars or something, it would just look like a big landmass or a huge rock. I mean, you wouldn't even know it was anything interesting, whether it be in space or on the ground.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you answered this or not, but when we talked, and I'm sorry about that, I'm just have so many things going on in my little mind, but when you guys, on the original project that you started, did you get any data that, outside of what you saw, your reptilians, did anybody see anything to confirm this, what you saw at that time, or
yeah. I mean, there were ETs and stuff. I mean, other people
that
got
other
ETs.
people saw?
Yeah, within my project got ETs. Other people got, weapon, spacey things, spaceships, life, operations. That definitely was not just me.
Amazing. All right, then. So then you had basically what I call confirmation from your fellow remote viewers on that initial project, and you consider the data or data that Courtney Brown and his team, you consider that legitimate, and you consider it you consider it, at least in my
Consensus,
terms,
not confirmation.
confirmation. But in my terms, it is. But are you at least happy inside that you got the same information?
Oh
they did?
yeah. If remote viewers says they're not happy to be
And
right,
so you can high five.
Yeah, we all want to. Yeah, we all want to be right. But yeah, it's seeming to look like it's more and more probable. I mean, the more people that look at it, they seem to be getting the same thing. So, yeah, I don't know what else there's something I wanted to add to that, but yeah, I mean, there is legitimate remote viewers. I think it was just one guy within the project, but again, these are groups separate from each other, working independently, all blind to the target. You can't calculate the number on something like that. It would be just astronomical of the odds, you know. So, you know.
Yep. That's what I say. And you're in a roundabout agreeing with me. I know you are. So, well, all right, Dave, I'm not going to keep you all day. I'm sure you've got other things to do, but yeah, good job. And, you know, now, at least as far as Encounters USA is concerned, you are vindicated because you do have, you know, finally we've got some corroborating data that I certainly accept. So thanks for being on, and we will talk to you next time.
Sounds good, Matthew. Good talking to you.
All right. Take care, Dave. All right. Well, thank you, sir. And I'm going to slap this in, and I should have it. I'm going to try to throw it out today. I'll send you a link.
Pretty crazy. You got the reptilian thing, huh?
Isn't that though? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I didn't even get to throw this. Maybe I can cut this in, but you know, I think it's still open for they might circle back once they hit Jupiter. They might circle around on Jupiter's gravity. And that was the one. The other thing that I didn't mention also is that the UN has classified this as a threat now. Mm-hmm. So that was the one thing. Yes, that's the one thing I forgot to mention that people will see is that the UN has classified this as a threat. And also what people are going to see is that they have been, according to this woman that's on, she's got a YouTube channel, that they've been watching this for 20 years. They've been watching 3i Atlas for 20 years. So anyway, but that's all in my video. You'll see it. But crazy stuff, huh?
Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, it just, like I said, once you get on this rabbit hole, it just really shows you we're living in someone else's zoo, basically, Matt. I mean, you know what I mean? Like obviously, if we know this is happening, then obviously our government knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they have psychics of their own doing this kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Okay. So let's just go down a rabbit hole then. So let's say the UN classifies this as a threat, and they have friends in space. Maybe there's a secret space program, or maybe there's somebody from another race or something allied with us, subcontracted to us that went and did. And I'm just speculating here, went and did their dirty work or our dirty work and took out that ship. You know, maybe somebody, maybe it was us, maybe a genetic version of us went and that can survive in space went and did that.
That's what's holding this up, man. And a big degree is it's just so dark. I mean, like there's human trafficking going on. There's humans on that vessel. What the hell are they doing there? Are they from here? And if they're from here, are they here of their own free will? You know what I mean? Like, so it's dark.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it at all.
Yeah,
So now we're going right back around to it's a cookbook. It's a cookbook theory. So we better end it.
From Twilight Zone. Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
All right. Well, good talking to you, Dave.
You too, bud.
Be careful out there.
All right.
Bye. I gotta. I think, am I recording still? I think I'm still recording. Stop recording. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is, as far as 3i Atlas goes, is so we've got. So there are three things that we know about. So there's one more thing I want to talk about that we know about 3i Atlas that they're actually telling us. And this is what Avi Loeb is going on about recently. And that is the fact that 3i Atlas is going to go right between it's going to hit a plane where it intersects the gravity of Jupiter, and it's going to also intersect the gravity of the sun. And it's going to hit that very spot.
Jupiter's strong gravitational force will exert such a push on 3i Atlas that it will be moved out of its trajectory as it makes its way out of our solar system. This one last striking encounter will happen around March 16th, 2026.
Which we don't know what the ultimate result will be. Will it be that the gravity of Jupiter is going to start to pull that thing in? Is that thing going to slingshot around Jupiter and head right back to Earth? We don't know. But my predictions that I kind of laid on the table before about this thing not leaving the universe or the solar system, but this thing actually coming back to Earth for a little feeding frenzy might not be so far out of the picture. So just remember that when you're watching about 3i Atlas, you also better be watching your back.